The Dawson family had always loved Christmas, but this year was different. The small, drafty house in the corner of Pinewood Lane was eerily quiet. 8-year-old Ethan and his little sister, 6-year-old Lily, huddled under a pile of blankets in the living room, their breath visible in the icy air. Their mother, Sarah, paced back and forth, glancing out the window as snowflakes drifted down. The past few weeks had been a nightmare. Just 2 days before Thanksgiving, their father, Jack, had been struck by a car while walking home from work. He had been in a coma ever since, leaving Sarah to juggle mounting bills and the heartbreak of seeing him unconscious in a sterile hospital room. The stress had taken its toll. Their heat and water had been shut off, and Sarah had no money left for Christmas presents, let alone food. "Mummy, do you think Santa will come this year?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with hope. Sarah knelt beside her daughter and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I don't know, sweetie. But sometimes miracles happen when we least expect them." Ethan looked up from his worn library book. "Maybe we can make our own miracle, Mom. Isn't that what Dad always says?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Jack had always believed in the magic of Christmas. He would sing carols loudly, bake cookies that never turned out quite right, and remind them that family was what mattered most. Now all Sarah could do was hope and pray. Later that evening, as the wind howled outside, a knock echoed through the house. Sarah froze. They weren't expecting anyone, and the last thing she needed was another bill collector. Gathering her courage, she opened the door. A tall man stood on the porch, bundled in a thick coat and scarf. He held a large box wrapped in shiny red paper. "Mrs. Dawson?" he asked, his voice warm and kind. "Yes," Sarah replied cautiously. "This is for you," the man said, handing her the box. "Merry Christmas." Before Sarah could ask who he was, he turned and disappeared into the snowy night. Confused but intrigued, she brought the box inside. Ethan and Lily rushed over, their eyes wide with excitement. Inside the box were warm blankets, canned food, and a note that read, "You are not alone. Believe in the magic of Christmas." Sarah's hands trembled as she read the note. Who could have sent this? She didn't have time to dwell on it, because Ethan and Lily were already diving into the food. The next morning, Sarah woke to another surprise. The sound of running water echoed from the bathroom. She rushed to check the sink and gasped as warm water flowed freely. The heat had also miraculously returned, and the house was beginning to thaw. "Mom, look!" Ethan called from the front door. On the porch was another box, this one filled with wrapped gifts, including a doll for Lily and a science kit for Ethan. A second note accompanied the box. "Hope shines brightest in the darkest times." Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude, but she couldn't shake the mystery. Who was behind this? On Christmas Eve, Sarah took Ethan and Lily to the hospital to visit Jack. They decorated his room with handmade paper snowflakes and sang his favorite carols. As they finished Silent Night, something extraordinary happened. Jack's fingers twitched. "Did you see that?" Ethan exclaimed. Sarah leaned over, tears streaming down her face. "Jack, can you hear me?" Jack's eyelids fluttered open, his gaze was unfocused, but he managed a weak smile. "Merry Christmas," he whispered. The nurses rushed in, astonished by his sudden improvement. Sarah held his hand tightly, her heart filled with hope. That evening, as they returned home, Sarah found a third note on the kitchen table. It read, "Sometimes angels walk among us. Keep believing." The next day, Sarah received a phone call from the hospital. The man who had hit Jack with his car had anonymously paid their overdue bills and arranged for their utilities to be restored. He had also left a fund to cover Jack's medical expenses. Sarah couldn't believe it. A stranger's act of kindness had saved them. On Christmas night, as the family sat together, the doorbell rang again. Sarah hesitated but opened the door to find a woman standing there, holding a bundle of letters. "Are you Sarah Dawson?" she asked nervously. "Yes," Sarah replied. I think I know who's been helping you," the woman said, her voice shaking. She introduced herself as Emily, the sister of the man who had hit Jack. She explained that her brother, Greg, had passed away suddenly from a heart attack just a week earlier. Before his death, he had been deeply remorseful about the accident and had made arrangements to help the Dawson family anonymously. "He left these letters for you," Emily said, handing Sarah the bundle. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she read Greg's heartfelt words, filled with apologies and a promise to make things right. In one letter, Greg revealed that he had been watching over the family from a distance, ensuring they had what they needed to survive the winter. "I'll never forgive myself," the letter read, "but I hope this brings you some comfort." On Christmas morning, the Dawson family gathered around their tiny tree, their hearts full of gratitude. Jack, though still weak, sat beside Sarah, holding her hand as Ethan and Lily tore into their presents. The house was warm, the air filled with laughter, and the scent of a roast chicken Sarah had managed to prepare. As the snow fell gently outside, Sarah looked at her family and whispered, "Thank you." She thought not only of Greg, but also of the mysterious ways the world seemed to right itself when hope felt lost. It was a Christmas they would never forget, a reminder that even in the darkest times, love and kindness could light the way, and that sometimes, even in tragedy, there could be redemption.